We're going to talk about the editor in this particular video. And when you finish recording, when you hit stop, you're brought to the screen you see here. And we have several options. The first thing we want to do, and I tell this to everyone, including students, is name the file. Because if you don't name the file, it could make it hard for you to find because it's been set by a date and a timestamp. So name the file. That's your first edit, let's say. After you name the file, slide over to the right, and right here you can see it says Open in Editor. So go ahead and click on that. So our editor has opened, and let's go ahead and look at the interface to see what we have. So here is the shortcut menu back to all the your account, and if you want to create a new project, things like that. So we don't need that for editing. We can see here on the right we have our undo. When we're done, we'll export. Let's come down here to the bottom left. We have cut. Cut is where we actually take or remove a portion of the video. Cropping would be to where you take, I like to take my tabs, my browser tabs, and crop those off so that way you only see the content I want to display. So cropping is beneficial. You can zoom in if you need to see something a little bit more closely. You can put some blur onto a video and add some text. And here's our delete button. We can play it to see the video to be able to determine where we need to make our edits. Here we can zoom in and out. This increases the footage so you can get more precise in your edits. And lastly, you can add media. So let's say, for example, you recorded yourself with a webcam, full webcam facing you of you doing your introduction, and you bring that clip in and add it to what's here. So that's a plus. That's a great addition. So that's a really valuable tool, is being to combine multiple clips. The only thing is, if you have the free version, that 5-minute limit is something you have to be concerned about. If you have the paid version, you're good to go. One thing that I mentioned was trimming. And we said that we would start the video and we would have like a moment of kind of quiet before we began to speak, and we would see this spike in our audio where we started to speak. So we would find that spot and we would trim. Let's say it's right here where my cursor is. I would grab the left side and I would trim all the way to that precise moment where just before I began to speak. And let's say at the end I hit stop, and there was a few moments where it continued to record as I hit escape from present mode and navigated over to the stop button, whatever. So you would go ahead and maybe, let's say, trim the end. And let's say that right here in the middle, you were in school and an announcement came over the intercom and it lasted for about 30 seconds. You have to cut that out. So right here is where the announcement began. So I'm going to click on cut there. And then I'm going to come over here to where the announcement ended right here. I'll tap that and hit cut. And then this is the announcement, this little section that I've cut, and I'm going to remove that by hitting delete. And that brings these two clips together. So that's how to trim the top, or the beginning, the end, and how to cut out something from the middle. Cropping is fairly easy. What I would recommend is before you do any cuts, crop, because now I have to crop this clip and this clip, versus if I would have cropped them while they were still together, it would save me a little bit of work. But let me show you what the cropping looks like. So the way to use the cropping tool is grab a corner, and what I want to do is see here how I have my browser tab there, and I have that URL, and I have all my little save bookmarks. I want to come just below that right there and get rid of that. And then I want this to come all the way to the bottom and the far edge. So just drag this to where you want it. And over here on the right, you see where it says done. Click on that. And now it is cropped out that whole tab. It just looks a little cleaner, less distracting, that kind of thing. But here, if you see this next clip, I didn't crop that before I cut it, so I have to do the same thing to that. So I would crop before you make any cuts, so you have to only do it once. And I adjust that, and I hit done. If you play your video back, if you're happy with everything, you can add some blur if you want to. If you need to add some text, drop some text in. When you're done, go ahead and hit export. And we have a couple options here. Export MP4 is going to send it to your computer. Export to Screencastify is going to store it in Google Drive. So depending on where the video is going next, could determine if you need it on your physical computer or if you need to go to Google Drive. If you're going to turn around and put this in like Canvas Studio so you can add some annotations and questions and distribute it to your students, then you may want to export it as MP4 so that way it's already on your computer and you can upload directly to Canvas Studio. However, if you don't need to upload it somewhere, if you're going to share it from Google Drive, then just share it right here to Google Drive. And I'm going to go ahead and select that just so we can see the options that pop up. We have a title here. Let me go ahead and name the video and hit save. It's processing. It's done and it's stored in Google Drive, right? But we'll get into our next video about sharing and ways to distribute it. So if that was going to be your next step, you would want to hit open in Screencastify, which brings us back to where we began. Remember here, we named it and hit the editor. This is where we started. And this is where we'll pick up in our next video.